Welcome back to The Gassing Station, the podcast that gets into the PistonHeads forum, like my co-host Sam Sheehan, has gotten into 2/3 extremely different cars recently.
Yeah, honestly, they couldn't have been. One was extreme high value, exciting. The other one was like a grenade on my backside, or more like a bomb in the living room. And the other one is very sensible.
Right. When you said high value, I thought you meant like good value for money, and I was like,
value for money.
Extreme high value. Okay, right.
In that world, it could be considered good value, but it's also extremely expensive.
Well, I think we'll get into that, but we're going to start off with the one that is probably the car that most people are going to be able to buy.
Yeah.
And former Gassing Station co-host John Howe was a massive fan of this. I've not driven it, but it looks...
Yeah.
It's the Mercedes CLA electric.
250 plus electric, and particularly the shooting brake. I've driven the non-shooting brake, but the one I have in at the moment, literally parked at summer flat right now, is the shooting brake. And the reason it's worth calling out, before PHs go, no, it's an EV, stop talking, it's a really good one because of one crucial thing, which is a point that we all, fair enough, petrol heads will often complain about, and that is range, because my God, does it have a lot of range.
Yeah.
You can get almost 500 miles between charges from the slipperiest and most efficient versions. But because this is a shooting brake spec'd up to the 9, so it's a 56 grand car as it sits, because it's AMG line Premium Plus. So it's got all the kit, 19-inch wheels. Like you said, looks remain divisive, but the bits added to it for this trim are quite nice, the wheels included. So that means it's got about 440-ish miles of range in the battery, even if you knock that back a little bit for real world, call it 400 miles.
Right.
And that means this is the first ever electric car I've ever had on loan as a press car, or just in general, actually, where I've never had to charge it for the entire week. It arrived fully charged.
That's incredible.
And I've had it all week, and I've driven it out to Surrey, I've driven it into Kent, and then around town quite a lot. I've done a fair amount of suburban and rural usage, which obviously includes motorway miles as well. And I haven't charged it once, and I've still got, off the top of my head, I think it's 160 miles left, and it's going back start of next week. I won't have done 160 miles over the weekend, so I won't have to charge it for the entire week.
How is the real world range near 500 miles if it's actually around 430 odd?
Yeah, I mean, that's for the most eco-focused version. So it'll have a smaller wheel, less equipment inside, etc., etc.
I see. So if you actually want it looking good, you're only getting north of 400. But that is still amazing, because
it's still really good. Yeah.
You know, I think when we bring a electric car story to you here on the Gassing Station, we want to do it in a way that would actually make sense, because there's loads of new EV stuff that comes out, and most of it doesn't come on our radar in the slightest or move the needle. I think when an electric car becomes tempting, or like, oh, I really want one of those, is when it's almost like the Skoda approach. You know, everyone loves a Skoda or a Dacia, of where it's like, I just get as much value as freaking possible, and I don't really need to worry about the car or the image. It's just cheap motoring. And EV is always going to be expensive, but at least with this, you're not having to worry about range anxiety.
That's it.
And then when you do fill up, I mean, what's the charging speed?
Well, it's up to 320 kilowatts. So, I mean, the classic stat, 10 to 80% in 22 minutes. Call it half an hour, on a UK charger to go to 80%. But, 80% of 500 miles is over 300 miles, so it's still good range. In fact, I did the sums. If you live in Norwich and you wake up and you think, I really fancy a croissant from Paris, you could hop in your CLA 250 plus shooting brake with a fully charged car in Norwich and get to Paris without stopping once. Or if you live in London and you want to go to Leeds to pick up, I don't know, a Leeds United shirt quickly, and then you need to whiz back. Well, the croissants in Paris. I'm sure Leeds does great.
Pret a Manger up in Leeds.
I lived in Leeds. I can confirm the croissants were okay. But you could get to Leeds and back with charge to spare. So if you wake up in the morning and you realise your niece or your nephew needs a Leeds United top, it's their birthday tonight, and it's not going to get to you in delivery time, you just whiz up to Leeds and back.
And if you charge at home, that's not actually going to cost you much, if any money at all, really.
Exactly. So in terms of usability, it's brilliant. And, for the average mileage, I think if you look into the UK average mileage, it's like you're going to charge once a fortnight, maybe once a month. So it's really, really good.
Yeah. Okay. So that is seriously impressive for an EV. And I think that the range anxiety kind of thing is now becoming less and less of an issue. So that's good. The only thing is that Mercedes in recent years have had, or kind of been known for potentially slightly questionable quality on the interiors. And overall, so again, range-wise, good. Rest of the product, any good?
I agree on the look. So when you get up close and you look at that front grille, it's got the big Mercedes badge in the middle, and then 450 billion other Mercedes badges around it.
You said, is it a literal 450 billion?
It feels like it.
Okay.
I mean, it might as well be. There are a lot of them. I don't know. I didn't count them.
That does seem like something that Mercedes would do.
Yeah,
We've
there are
put
Mercedes
450 billion Mercedes stars in your grille.
It's too much. So there are loads across the grille. I don't mind the ones in the headlights and the tail lights because they kind of work. They're sort of into the design of that. That's fine. But the ones on the grille I find a bit annoying. I think it's not the best looking car at the front. The shooting brake at the back, quite like the look of it.
It's the problem that I've got. So again, I'll put pictures up of this if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're seeing it on Spotify. The problem I've got is that if you look at the grille, and it's a massive
plastic grille.
It's a plastic filled in grille. Let's say that. But it's the light bar that joins the front headlights together is above the grille, a bit like a monobrow, and I can say that as someone with substantial eyebrows. It is kind of a unibrow kind of thin LED light that runs across it, which makes it look a bit like a deep sea dweller.
Yeah,
which is something that
deep sea dweller. Yes,
Mercedes started doing that like a decades ago, and they tried the A class,
Yeah.
wasn't it? That was kind of like that fish-like, but
Yeah.
that was a friendly fish. This looks like the sort of thing that is well, I'm not going to say nightmare fuel, but it's like it's one of those deep sea dwellers.
It's like
that
the one
just
with
looks a bit funny.
The big arm on the thing with the light.
That's 100%.
Yeah, that terrifying one. Yeah, I agree. I don't think the looks are brilliant. The shooting brake is a bit better because at the rear, I like that it's got it sacrifices a bit of boot space because it's quite a slanty rear roof line, but I think it looks quite smart. It looks quite good, and I like the wheels. And the car I've got is in red, so it's all right. Interior, you mentioned, totally agree. The digital displays, if you don't get the third optional passenger display, instead of that, you'll get a blanking plastic plate on what is clearly a space for a screen, but there's no screen in it. And then it will have more Mercedes badges on it. So you have to really get the screen just to get rid of all the bloody Mercedes badges. The screens themselves are really good. I won't go into detail about them, but they work quick. They're intuitive.
Merc does do pretty decent screens. If you have to have a screen in your car, the Merc ones aren't that bad.
Yeah, I don't like the way they fit on the dash. It's kind of like big stuck-on slab of like an obelisk of screens. But I have to admit the tech itself is really good, and I like the fact that they've got Google. You've got augmented reality for your sat nav and stuff. Nothing new on the CLA, but it's all carried over onto this, and it looks really good. And it's actually genuinely useful. If you're in a tricky road scenario, this stuff helps with your sat nav. The issue I have is the plasticiness of the buttons. The steering wheel, for example, has single plate bits of plastic which work on a rocker.
Yeah,
you press them by mistake. I did it like 10 times. They feel really cheap and horrible. It's got that thing that even Volkswagen has stopped doing, which is where you've only got the 2 window switches, and then you have to press the rear button to tweak the rear ones. And obviously, if you've got kids and they've been playing with the windows, it's just annoying. And it's just all cost cutting stuff that feels cheap. The buttons, and also the climate control, there are no physical buttons for that. It's all in the infotainment system. Yes, you can adjust the heater. It's always on screen, but fan speed, you have to tap a button. So those are really annoying. It's just the range. This car's saving grace is the range, because you just go, all right, that's annoying. But in an EV, the biggest annoyance typically, if it's not great, is having to constantly charge a thing. And this just fixes that entirely. The biggest challenge this car has is coming from BMW, because they're going to do an i3 Touring, and obviously, as we know, that Noah class platform is very capable of near 500 miles as well. So it's going to be interesting to see whether that actually beats this on range.
And that doesn't have a face like a deep sea
good-looking
dweller,
car,
which is a smart looking thing. But remind me again of the price.
The car I have with all the kit on it is 56 grand.
Well, as I know what's going to come up later in this episode, I know that someone could get a CLS with a big V8 in it for half the price.
Exactly.
So stick around for that.
And probably half the range, by the way.
Next up, though, is something that's a little bit more in our wheelhouse. You've been driving something that I used to call a Gumpert.
Yes.
That I think a lot of people called a Gumpert. And for some reason, it's related to something called an Apollo.
Gumpert Apollo is now part,
It's now, so
Apollo
it used to
Apollo.
be Gumpert Apollo, and now there's Apollo IE.
Yeah.
These are cars that, well, for Gumpert, for instance, hasn't been a thing for Jesus, knocking
over
on
10
20
years.
20, if not more than that.
It was post financial
2010 around.
post financial crash. It survived a few years after that.
So it's nearly 20-year-old car.
Oh well, the car came out. Yeah, I think it was 05. It's certainly 05. They'd revealed them, and I think 06 were customer cars. So yeah, the car itself, Gumpert Apollo, 20 years old. Yeah, exactly.
And the Apollo is a little bit newer than that, quite a bit newer than that.
Yes.
So what's the deal?
Well, I was sent out by our editor Nick to go and drive both the Gumpert Apollo.
Oh, it's a hard life.
I know. And I'm going to have to read it off the screen because I always get it wrong. Apollo Intensa Emozione. Emotion, probably. IE. Let's call it the IE. Apollo IE, which is actually how they've referred to it. You see it in all the press releases as well. I think it gets shortened down. Basically, the OG Gumpert Apollo, the one that was famous, I think Mr. Hammond drove it on that famous television show.
Oh, yeah,
I believe it was.
Yeah.
And I actually watched that as part of my research because, proper research. Let's just watch old YouTube videos, obviously taken from the TV. And they made that out. They made the car out to be a complete animal at the start, like spinning off everywhere. And then you get to grips with it. And then you realize it's really, really fast. So I went there. And the reason they've done this is because they've got the latest model, which we've covered on PH, the Evo version of this IE. I didn't drive the Evo, which is lighter and a little bit faster. I drove the normal one. And then the Gumpert Apollo, just for the lols, I guess, because it's a cool old part of history. Different brand name, but it's still very much the same family lineage, the company is at least. And it's got the sons of the original Gumpert brand owner. They now are very, very senior at Apollo. And Apollo has different owners because it went into financial difficulty in the post-financial crash era, and was then bought out by some foreign investors, and effectively is run in a very hands-off way by those investors and owners, and the family still runs it. And so the sons who I met, who were great, really enthusiastic guys, clearly really proud of the Gumpert era stuff as well. They let us loose in these cars, myself and a couple of other journalists, because they're taking them to Goodwood. So if you're at the Festival of Speed, you will see these exact cars being charged up the hill, not in the timed stuff.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter because you're just going to want to be able to hear them because there's some seriously good engines going on here. So just to kind of refresh some people's memories, the Gumpert Apollo, again, 20 years old. It's quite what's the best way I could describe it? I was going to say agricultural, but that's not quite. It's almost like an industrial looking car because it's just a pure downforce monster.
It's a GT1 inspired track day car.
So it was never a race car, but it was very, very much track leaning, which back then was a really not unheard of, but it was an extremely rare thing to have a supercar that was very much tailored towards. Were they road legal?
Yeah, I mean the one that I drove had number plates on it, German plates.
So very much track leaning. That was a twin turbo V8,
4.2 litre Audi V8 with twin turbos added by Gumpert.
It wasn't the prettiest looking thing, but the best way. I mean, every time I saw it, I thought if Noble ever made the most extreme M400 ever, it would probably look like a Gumpert Apollo.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It was tuned for aero, like you say, and it was inspired by GT1 of the 90s.
Then we fast forward, say, a decade.
Yeah.
Then the Apollo Intensa Emozione comes along.
Bang on.
And
bear in mind it's a German company, but it's an Italian sounding name.
It is an Italian, so maybe you've got to say it's in a German accent, which I won't dare do. But they, this thing is, it almost looks like it would take your eye out just by looking at it because there is so much going on.
There are angles on the angles.
Yeah, so it seems like it's catering very much to a completely different audience.
Yes.
So we're talking about the likes of people who buy, say, is it rude to say the Mansory crowd?
No, not really, because I think the looks and the extremeness. The only thing
I think it's the extremity, isn't it? It's that kind of like I just want the most. A Chiron is a striking car.
Yeah.
As is a LaFerrari. This thing is like oh my god! I've never seen something looking like that before.
Yeah.
For better and for emphasis on what.
It's. I mean, in the metal, it looks it's so extreme. By the way, it's not road legal. The IE, so it's a track car, so it's different.
Pedestrian safety. It would just be like getting hit by a blender.
I think so. So I agree that it's not pretty in any way, but my god, does it look extreme? It almost reminded me of like the fighter craft, whatever they are in Star Wars, where it's just like really purposeful, quite terrifying. it's a really purposeful looking car, and because it's a track car, it's allowed to just look absolutely bonkers, which it does from front and rear and side and inside.
Yeah, so it's a bit like, how would I describe it? It almost as if it was a mask on like an Avengers villain.
Yeah,
right? There's a lot of layers. Even the kind of the side air intakes have a layer separating the shroud of the intake with the actual bodywork. There's canards on top of the canards.
We heard you like canards, so we added canards to your canards.
It's honestly, and
shout out Exhibit,
it's
friend
got,
of the pod.
It's got barge boards, but there's a barge board in front of the inner barge board. So it's almost like a twin chassis.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. My view is it's very much. My polite view is it's very spec dependent, because I've seen the one I saw, which was at Goodwood. It must have been about 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, because they revealed it years ago. Yeah.
That was flip-flop purple with gold wheels, but the whole bodywork was purple. Whereas I'm looking at one now that's more like it's
quite nice, that colour.
Reflex purple style TVR paint.
I was just
with blue highlights with silver wheels, and it looks a little bit smarter. But it doesn't matter really how it looks.
I was just about to say it's a track car, and
we're talking about something how it drives.
Yeah, and also the main thing is it's so extreme. It's kind of like it's nothing like a Lotus Evija, but in the sense that there's no part of a Lotus Evija where you're like, that's pretty. You're just like, wow, every component is doing something, every part of that body, and it's the same with this thing. Very, very different proposition. It also has active aero on that rear wing, which is super cool because it really lifts up and drops down. And we got a demo with on the car before the engine started, and I love the sound of like click, bang, like all the aero hydraulics or whatever it is, pneumatics are just so mechanical sounding. And of course, under the engine cover is a Ferrari-derived V12, a 6.3 litre. It's shared with or taken from the F12, but has been modified by the guys at Apollo. And so you've got, what do you have, 780 horsepower? Yeah, that was it, 780 horsepower. Now, that's not actually a lot more than what you got in the Gumpert, because the Gumpert had twin turbos.
Yes, it did, yes. But I imagine this is a little bit more manageable.
It's more manageable, but the biggest thing you notice, especially when it starts up from the outside, is it is considerably better at exploding your eardrums. Because the Gumpert, being turbocharged, is loud and thunderous, and you feel it in your chest. It's a really amazing V8 tone. But of course, it's just the volume is it's like, a normal track car volume.
Yeah.
That thing is like a fighter jet. It's like an old Formula 1 car when it starts up.
Oh,
not necessarily in pitch, because it revs to 9,000 revs instead of 19,000 revs. But it's still, the volume. You have to put your fingers in your ears if that starts up. It's so loud.
I love a supercar that actually destroys your eardrums. Yeah. That's brilliant.
They're gone. I can't hear anything.
Incredibly, it doesn't have 2 or 4 exhausts, or even 6
exhaust.
Or 12. It has 3.
You've just reminded me about the exhaust.
3 triangular tipped exhausts.
I've got my piece here because I'm trying to get the facts right on this. So basically, there we go. It's
arranged in a star.
So that exhaust is optional. I think the one you're looking at. There are 2 exhausts available.
Okay.
The first is just conventional metal. I think it's was it titanium? I think it was titanium, but it was in a conventional shape. The optional one, which costs about, I think it's like 50 grand or something like that. It's quite a lot of money.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe a little bit more actually. Is a 3D printed titanium exhaust system that has a lizard skin texture to the outside, and you can see it coming off the back of the block of the engine through to the rear, because there are no silencers, so it just comes off straight off the back. And so it looks really cool. It's a lot of money, but if you're spending 3 million euros on one of these, which is what you have to do to get one, then 50, 60 to 100k extra, might as well tick that box.
Do both of them look like a starfish at the backside?
Yeah, they look a little bit. They've got pointed edges. It reminded me a little bit of. Is it the Aventador that has some cool exhaust shapes, doesn't it, at the back?
The Aventador has it's like a rectangle meets a triangle, which will have a proper name, but I'm not a mathematician, so I don't care.
No, but the way this thing sounded obviously was just completely different. It was proper. It was more comparable to a Ferrari FXXK Evo track car. Properly amazing sounding motor. But as you hinted earlier, it's a bit more of a pussycat to drive, because the torque comes in a much more predictable manner. And so chassis, you get into this thing, it's really low. It's got the steering wheel, as you can see in the pictures. I'm sure you'll put one on screen. Like it feels very much like a future fighter jet setup.
My goodness,
you've got a digital screen in the middle, flanked by 2 digital screens for your mirrors, because you can't see anything really outside of the car beyond, because you're peering over that dash setup, and then the mirrors, which by the way I held on by carbon fiber, and when you go at speed, like going around corners, they sort of wobble a bit, like proper track race car stuff. I love it. And so it is a little bit compromised in terms of visibility because it's a proper track car, race car thing. But oh man, it felt cool to drive. Engine sound, astounding. Amazing. Never anything short of just like every time you're swearing your head off as you put your foot down. Gearbox is really quick as well. You got shift paddles on the back of the wheel. It had a cool startup procedure where you had to press some buttons on the top of the thing and do it. It was quite cool.
Such a sucker for any car with buttons on the roof to start it.
It was all quite cool.
Epic.
It rode quite. It wasn't too firm because these are quite light cars. If I remember correctly, off the top of my head, they're both way under 1.5 tons. I think it was like 1.3 and 1.4, something like that.
So the engine equates for a fair amount of that.
1.2 and 1.3, yeah.
Amazing.
So, 1.4. So yeah, the newer car is 1.4, and the Gumpert, which I've typoed in my article, was Gumpert. Let's correct that. Gumpert. Here you go. So they're both, comparable with a 911 GT3 RS in terms of weight. And they're mid-engine, so both optimized in a balanced sense. But the Gumpert was, maybe I'm a bit biased because it was the car I had on my wall. As a poster I had on my wall, and I grew up in the era when that was like the show car. I think it topped the timesheets of that TV show we all used to watch.
Yeah. And
so when I got in that, all right, yeah, it was a bit rudimentary. It wasn't anywhere near as fancy as this inside. And of course, when it was new, it was just over £250,000. So it was still very expensive, but it was nowhere near as expensive as this is. But my God, that engine, the thump of torque from 2 turbochargers, and it was a sequential gearbox, a pull and push sequential gearbox. I just loved it. It felt it felt compact and relatively small as well. It's not a tiny car, but it felt small. So it was just an amazing machine. And I came away from it going, I'd have both if I had the money, but if I could only have one, I think I'd have the Gumpert because I just love the rawness of it. The newer car is very high tech and makes a wonderful sound, but the old car just felt old school, and I loved it for that. It was Lotus Exige as well in balance.
One of them is kind of designed to thrill in every sense of the word, whereas the other is just all about driving. And so naturally, for someone like you, and I think I'd be the same, the Gumpert would appeal in that case. That being said, when I saw this Apollo for the first time, again, about 6-7 years ago, I really wasn't a fan of it because I didn't think it was actually real.
Yeah.
You see it and it's like, yes, I know it was there in front of me, but, the amount of vaporware supercars that come around, and it's just like, okay, here's another company that says it's making a X many thousand horsepower, whatever car that's got 280 cylinders. It's like, I will believe it when I see it. And then you see it in person, you go, I'll believe it when I see more of them.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, where I'm looking at it now, there are several customer cars that have been bought.
Yeah.
It exists, and the fact that it exists, and you can get it in, it's in shouty spec no matter what, but you can get it in a way that doesn't look like, it's screaming at you. I actually think is quite cool. I'm looking at the interior, and it is so futuristic. It's a bit like a Vision Gran Turismo car. Those concepts that they put in the Gran Turismo game that look like they're from the 100 or 200 years in the future. It kind of looks like a real version of that. Yeah. That sounds epic.
And of course, like I think it was 10 they've made. So the original Gumpert Apollo, they made, I think it was 40. They said between 48 and 50. Gumpert Apollos.
Seems like a lot more than I was expecting.
Before they obviously had their financial difficulties, they've only sold, and they only intended to sell 10 of the IEs, and they made 11, and one, and it's not a prototype, it's the one I drove and the one that's going to Goodwood. So they made 11, but one is staying in the company. They sold 10. The same will be true for this Evo, which I don't know if they've sold many of those yet because it's very recent. I think it was launched this year. So the Evo is a bit lighter and a little bit quicker, but ultimately it's based on the same car. So these are rare cars. The ones you're seeing are probably the 10 or 12 you see on the screen is probably everything they've ever done of this, i.e., family. But like you said, they're real cars, and that means the business, because they're expensive, there is a sustainable future for the business, hopefully, with this.
But I think it's the whole point. I'll always give companies like this a fair shot, and I think that the whole point of it is that I understand it's quite expensive, right? How much?
€3 million.
Okay, €3 million.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
but
so 2.6 million quid, give or take.
And there's probably a fairly, they're probably, I don't know how much they're making on each one, but, let's say, so €3 million, and It's for those people that want something that is completely otherworldly, that will stop people dead in their tracks, which is obviously harder and harder and harder to do nowadays because everything is extreme. You know, how many they've made over 100 Valkyries, haven't they? So a Valkyrie is more common than this.
And I've just seen the Valkyrie is 2.5 mil, so this is, call it 100 grand more, but considerably rarer.
Yes, true that. And so that I can see the appeal of it, and it's got a V12. And you put it in a shouty colour and it will stand out against everything. 3 million though versus what did the original Gumpert go for?
£275,000 when new, which obviously in today's money would be
How
probably.
on earth did they make any money on this?
Well, I think
but I mean it's crazy that you could get something that extreme even 20 years ago for £275,000. It's just ridiculous.
We were driving them around a runway, like a little made-up runway course, oval course in Germany, and the IE was just, you would, every time you powered out the corner, you were just like, wow, this music is astounding. The Gumpert was really begging to be chucked around. It felt to me, in steering feel and rotation, and even a little bit the size, like a Lotus Exige, except I had the biggest explosion behind me every time I touched. And that sounds really wrong. That sounds like it sounds like the Curryverse went through quite fast.
Yes, Sam and a massive explosion around his backside.
Mechanical. It was like a bomb was mounted midship in this car. It was so bloody quick to accelerate. It was as quick as I've ever felt in a petrol car at some points through the rev range.
That's really quite something.
4,000, the boost came on, and it was just like, bang, I'm down the straight. And I'm already like, I need to brake.
Yeah. I still... Well, I didn't drive them, so I don't know which one I would prefer. But so I'm going to put that £2.6 million, 3 million euros in your pocket, virtually. And I'm taking you through the classifieds now. I'm having a look. Unfortunately, the EB110... SS prototype that we've got here is out of reach at 3.5 million, as is the Veyron Supersport that we covered the other week. That's out. I've also got an FXX Evo.
Oh, I love those.
That's the Evo version of the Enzo track-only car. 4.88 million. Oh. And that one I know for a fact is in Hong Kong as well, which is a little bit tricky to get hold of. However, you've got, in budget, just about a Koenigsegg CCX.
Yeah.
It's P1 GTRs. The Koenigsegg Regera.
Yeah.
You've got a blooming Centenario here. That one's also in Hong Kong, so it's going to require importing. But or the final Aston Martin Valor.
Oh, that's cool, and that's way under budget.
Did any of those appeal to you?
Well,
or would you rather the Apollo IE?
Oh, it'd be tough because the Ferrari. My heart longs for that Ferrari, even though it's
can't afford it.
Too far away. Can't afford it actually. It's out of budget.
You're way too poor.
Then I think the IE I would go for, because the V12. Oh, actually, well, I don't know. The Aston would be pretty special, wouldn't it? But that Ferrari V12. I just want a Ferrari V12.
The Aston, however, does have a manual gearbox. So let's try that again. A manual Aston Martin V12 or Apollo.
Oh, God, yeah, no. Okay. All right, you got me. Yeah, V12 manual.
But it's closer than you think, which is saying something. So that's how much you enjoyed that car.
And also, I've just seen GMA T50, Gordon Murray's car, is 2.8 million with tax. So that's, this
way out of budget.
This is cheaper.
Also, GMA T50 you can't buy anymore. And on the used market, I think they are about double that.
Not surprisingly, I mean.
So save yourself some money and get an Apollo Intensa Emozione, and have a lot of very loud fun. They're bringing them to the UK, right? You can buy one in the UK.
Well, it's a track car, so there's no road issues there. Hence why they blew my eardrums off.
Let's bring ourselves back down to earth and find something that we can buy with money that most people will be able to relate to. So I've got a post here by BNBNBN. 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 That's it gives you a BNBN.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I presume that's why they've got that name.
That must be why, yeah, unless we're totally missing something. Anyway, so they've got replace my Mini, practical performance car. And they say, my car buying dilemma has got to the point where rather than being a lurker on here, I have made an account and decided to ask PH. Hooray!
Welcome.
Thank you for joining. I have been looking for quite a while for a replacement for our Mini Cooper S. The excuse for this is that it would be good to have something interesting/fun that can handle the 2 kid seats better than the Mini. Ideally, that means 4 or 5 doors. We have a family car for the main bulk, but I would like something I get to use a bit more. We never take the Mini on trips for all of us. I'd like something with an interesting engine and it be pre-GPF before they... So that's the particulate filter stuff. Before they all get too old to be able to daily. I don't do many miles, so I am not massively worried about fuel economy.
Wow, that's handy.
You can see why this spoke to me.
Yeah.
It must have an interesting engine / sound good, can easily fit 2 adults plus 2 kids, open to paying a bit on running costs, but don't want something that has a reputation for throwing massive bills all the time.
I missed that bit.
Might have ignored that for one of mine. Budget is a bit of a sliding scale. I can go up to £22,500, very specific, but the older the car is, the less I ideally want to spend, so I have some held back for maintenance. Very smart, BM. Recommendations. Of course, we always have recommendations. BM. What you got for me, Sam? I think I alluded to this earlier.
You did, yes. I've got a 2006 Mercedes. It's back when it was Mercedes-Benz CLS AMG. It's a CLS 63, which obviously has a 6.2 litre V8. This is a car I really like. I can't remember if I liked them when they were new. I
loved them when they were new. So yeah,
they've aged well.
I think they've aged extraordinarily well. Yeah. I adored these when they were new, but for some reason I like a 4-door coupe.
Yeah. Of course you do.
Yeah, but I think it looks absolutely spectacular. And the concept of this, which I saw relatively recently, I think, has it looked almost identical. They went concept, wow, that looks amazing, and then they put it in relatively unchanged into production.
Yeah.
Dead cool.
Dead cool, makes an amazing sound. I mean, it's got the 4 doors, it's got the engine, it's got the sound. You know, the space inside. I mean, if they're kids, you won't have to worry about the swoopy roofline because they're not going to be 6'2". So, I mean, this ticks all the boxes. And the price, $18,995, well under budget. I know it's an 06 car, but it's only got 50,288 miles on the clock from 2 previous owners. So that suggests it's been loved.
So the 63, if I remember correctly, was quite a lot rarer than the 55. There was a lot of 55s, and I think the 63 arrived really late because it was the same with the CLK.
Yeah.
The 63 was right at the end of its life.
Yeah.
And so it was only out for a year or two. I don't know the production numbers on these. However, because these came on my radar when I was looking for the 4 Series, and then I realised that while BM doesn't have to worry about running costs, I do.
Yes. Yeah.
So it did go. One of the things that made me go, oh, I might struggle with that, weirdly, is I believe these came with carbon ceramic brakes as standard.
Oh my God, that is an expensive bill. Several £1,000s to replace that, if that's the case. Yeah.
Not to put BM off, but yeah, it's these were really quite special.
Yeah. And I mean, that engine as well, you know, they're stunning motors, aren't they?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 6.2 litre V8. Noise is going to be incredible. It's going to be thirsty. The brakes terrify me. Do I still want one? Absolutely.
Hell yeah. This one's in great nick. Over 500 horsepower. You know, that's a really, really good buy. Dare I say it? It won't be a million miles from rock bottom. I suppose it could do. If it was in a worse state, I imagine there'd be a few £1,000s to chop off that over the next few years. But this is in such good condition and the mileage is low.
Also, they're a massive tangent, but I miss it when Mercedes had AMG at the end of the name rather than in the name. I always love like C63 AMG.
Yeah, me too.
It just sounds right when it's finished off with the AMG. Yeah. When it starts off, it's just not the same.
I know. Well, that I guess that's because it went from being external to internal, didn't it, and all that stuff. But or they were trying to emphasize that. Now, this is quite contrasting. My next choice, because I've gone from like crazy big, exciting engine to very fast and capable car, but of course the engine by comparison will seem fairly, let's just say normal, I guess. And that's because it's an FK8 Civic Type R.
I remember when these came out and I was like, oh, I don't like the look of that.
Yeah.
And I look at it now as an older man, arguably wiser, arguably not. And I kind of go, they're actually really cool.
They are. I still can't get over all the fake bits of plastic. Like I'm looking at the picture of the rear of the car and I'm just remembering how big that fake grille or the 2 fake grills on the rear are. That's like unacceptable, Honda. What were you thinking?
It's silly in a good way.
Yeah.
You know.
But in terms of fun, and if you put the kids in the back, again, 4 doors, plenty of space in the back for the kids. You know, it's a way to excite the kids and get them into cars. You can imagine taking them for a drive, and I know it's a 4-cylinder, but it's turbocharged heavily, and it really does pack some punch. And with the diff on the front, like they're really, really good cars to drive quickly. You know, there's a good reason. There's good reason why they were called like front-wheel drive Porsche GT cars, just like the FL5, because
100%.
they are in so many ways. They have that finesse and fine-tuning to everything. And so, as a driver's car, fantastic. It's just whether your kids are going to get as excited over a punchy 4-pot as they would do a big V8.
It's a 4-seater, so it's not the end of the world.
No.
The only thing is that they do sound pretty lackluster.
Yeah.
Because they've got a sound generator in them, which sounds nothing like an engine.
No. Do these beep on when you hit the limiter as well? I remember that.
I might optionally do a beep. I know an FL5 can have a beep, but I don't know if this one does. But it could be an option that you switch on or off.
They ride quite well as well. I've just remembered, quite comfortable because they had the adjustable damping, didn't they?
I would say, of all the cars on your list, this is going to be the most fun to drive.
Yes,
but the least evocative when you're actually when you listen to it. So
and I should say it's 21,295, so there's a little bit of money in the tank for I don't think this would need much maintenance. It's a Honda. It's going to be solid. 60,000 miles, again, 2 previous owners, a 2017 car. Seems like a nice buy. That said, as we often do, when we look at the prices suggested by PHs, we go for the top of the range. The use of the word ideally, that means 4 or 5 doors, I took to mean doesn't need 4 or 5 doors if it's really good.
Oh, Sam.
So I've gone with the 2-door. I've broken the rules. No, I think this counts.
I love the colour of this.
Yeah, this
That's
spec.
Such a nice spec, man.
Right, before I tell you the car, it's that lovely dark shade of very gentlemanly red.
Gentlemanly red.
Silver
if I
wheels.
ever start a car company, I'm having a red like this and calling it gentlemanly red because it can mean so many different things.
Yeah, that's true. Silver wheels and then a lovely cream leather interior. And of course, I'm talking about the Jaguar XKR.
100%. Yeah, I mean that is
an 08 XKR. I should say.
It is ridiculous how affordable, in air quotes, these are to purchase initially. I'm not going to get into running costs and all that kind of stuff, but
you've got $6,000 of running cost window there.
Exactly
for a 16 grand car.
Ian Callum design.
Yeah,
very very smart. I think these look the XK8 and XKR that came before this. I think looks really quite dated now. These have aged spectacularly well.
Yeah, they really look
and I
good.
still think they look pretty contemporary, even though this one is knocking on the door of 20 years old. 66,000 miles for 16 grand.
Yeah,
and you get a 420 horsepower V8.
Exactly, 4.2 litre V8. I've just noticed the plate. It's an 08 car, and the plate is XK08R, and then some other letters. But XK08R.
That is really good. Yeah,
it can't just be a coincidence. That's
brilliant.
Be,
yeah.
I guess it can be, but it's unlikely to be. And 0 previous owners, 66,300 miles, 0 previous owners on this. So apparently this is, although they have used the word owners in the ad, so perhaps they've just not actually filled in. But either way, this has clearly been cherished because this is 100%. Absolutely mint. Right down to the alloy wheels look absolutely spotless. The number plate, a car of this age, somebody's looked after this. The number plates look gleaming. It's clearly been looked after. Oh, look at that interior as well. Isn't that wonderful?
I mean, you may know this from my choice of car, but I'm actually a bit of an old man at heart, and I look at that and I go, God, I would be so happy driving that.
And the service history is brilliant. It's like every 4 or 5K. Loads of service.
They were like,
history.
Right, okay, we've done another 1,000 miles. Go and get it serviced. Yeah. God, that is quite literally. It's barely moved. They've given it a service.
Yeah. In some cases, it's done 1,000 miles. In fact, for pretty much the 3-year period until very recently, it had a service at every 1,000 miles.
Oh yeah, that's really cool. And you're right in the sense that it's not using the full budget. And they did say if I was getting something older and a bit more potentially temperamental, I'd like a bit of money to save. That's cool.
As far as high risk old Jags go, this feels low risk in that regard because of the history.
You're right.
That said.
I have the cars that I've gone for. One of the things they're after is an interesting engine or one that sounds good, and I've gone for something that arguably doesn't sound the best, but is very big on interesting.
You've gone for an unmarked police car.
I have gone for an unmarked police car. Yeah, well, not literally. This is a Volvo V60 Polestar engineered T8 PHEV all-wheel drive, and
is there an A at the end of that?
And there's an A at the end for I'm not entirely sure what the A is for maybe for awesome.
Yeah.
But this is the twin-charged hybrid Polestar. So it's one of the last petrol Polestars they did before Polestar became an offshoot.
Yeah.
Because I actually had a straight six Polestar one lined up, and I thought that would be good, but it was out of budget at 25 grand.
Was it in that blue as well?
It wasn't. I believe it was in the blue. Yeah,
oh, nice.
I think they're extremely tempting, but I have also heard that the running cost of those is quite eye-watering. Whereas this one, I mean, it's a hybrid, so it can't be that. It's a plug-in hybrid, so it can't be that bad. 400 horsepower, but you've got the same-ish powertrain, same style of powertrain that you would get in a Lancia S4 or a Lancia S4 is actually the only one I could think of. I was going to say the 037, but that didn't have twin charging. So Lancia S4, the first car ever in history to do twin charging.
Yeah.
There is a very, very faint link between the two. This one is white with a sunroof, and it's an estate, so it's massively practical. It's got the big old beefy gold calipered Polestar brakes. 400 horsepower, 85,000 miles, 22,495. So just a fiver inside budget, but 2020 car, so it's pretty new. I think the running costs again shouldn't be terrible.
Yeah,
I presume they're going to be quite reliable.
I'd imagine so. I mean,
a 4-pot,
yeah, and with a big.
It's only got a supercharger and a turbocharger attached to it. It'll be fine. So that seems like the most sensible choice.
Yeah, and you can see that being very usable as a family car. I know it's not the main family car.
Yeah.
Same with this, actually.
But then I thought, well, it's interesting in one way, but it doesn't sound especially good. So how about I get an engine that does sound good? So I found this 2012 Audi RS4 Avant. So this is a B9? B8?
Testing my knowledge here, but I can tell you it's of the era when they had matte silver mirrors, which I approve of massively.
It's a B8, sorry, so I got that completely wrong. But yeah, so it's a B8 RS4, but it's the spec that caught my attention. So it's 19,495, 84,990. But it's the colour that caught my attention because it's an extremely deep purple. To the point of where it's black, but only purple in certain lights.
Yeah.
It's kind of like black with a hint of aubergine.
Yeah, I'm seeing that, yeah.
And I don't always know if that's good, but personally, to me, that looks absolutely spectacular.
I'll say it, I'll just copy and paste my sentence. Better with silver wheels, but yeah.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. It's got gloss black wheels.
I've lost the wheels, I can't see them.
It's got gloss black wheels, but they've got silver Audi centre caps.
If they were silver, that would really work, especially with the matte silver mirrors.
Well, the great thing about it being 19,495 is that you've got a little bit of money left over to get silver wheels for it. And I think that would really, really sort it out. But it's got more power, 4.2 litre, naturally aspirated V8, remember? 444 brake horsepower.
Oh my God, that's the Gumpert engine.
Is it?
Sans turbo. I presume so. It's a 4.2 litre Audi V8. Surely it's
got to be, hasn't it?
It's the same, unless it was the later version, but I'm sure it's based on the same
I imagine
family.
it would be a later version because surely they must have revised it over time, because that engine would have come out. I don't think it came out in the R8, but it was obviously the R8 that made it popular.
It's in the family. So you've got a Gumpert related Audi there.
So that's my fun option, my fun family option in a really interesting colour. There's a lot of very shouty RS4s out there, but I don't know if BN and I have similar tastes, but if I was going to buy an RS4, this is the spec I'd want it in, albeit with silver wheels. But then I thought, oh my God, a V8, a naturally aspirated V8 is very expensive. And I know that they don't care too much about running costs. However, if you're going to go and enjoy that car, it's going to absolutely chug fuel. Yeah. So then I thought, how can I get something with the practicality of an Avant, but with an interesting engine that's also slightly frugal? And I nailed it immediately with this, a BMW 340i M Sport in brackets Shadow Edition Touring.
Are they that frugal? I mean, I know they're not crazy thirsty. How frugal are we talking now? I imagine that's still.
Well, this one's got the B58 straight six, which is a legendary engine. Yeah. Twin turbocharged. I believe it's a smaller turbo to do low down torque, and then a larger turbo for everything above. I have the N55 in my car, so the predecessor to this, which was a single turbo, and it's not bad.
That's good to know.
It's not the best, but on a motorway, you're kind of like 40s, I'd say.
40s miles per gallon. That's really good.
It's kind of
nice
like
leggy gearbox.
High 30s, 40s. Just
really good,
cruises along in eighth.
I'd
Put
say
it in
that's
Eco
very
Pro
fuel
mode.
efficient.
Yeah.
It's better than my bloody MX-5 5-speed, revving the hell out of it to stick with motorway traffic.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about. I think all in all, I probably average around 32 in
Not
mine.
bad.
Yeah, not bad at all for a big old straight 6.
Yeah.
This one, however, everyone, anytime I say to people, "Oh, I've got the N55," they're like, "Yeah, B58's better though, isn't it, mate?" And I'm like, "Well, apparently so. N55 sounds better, but the B58 is ridiculously torquey, ridiculously fast, 322 horsepower, but it was it is such a torquey engine that it will rip your face off." And it's considered one of BMW's kind of legendary straight 6s, really. So here, being an M Sport Shadow Edition, you have all the kind of grills and stuff are blacked out, which is not to everybody's taste, but it itself being a black car, it does look quite smart. It has diamond cut wheels, so it's part silver, part black wheels, so it does look quite smart. I just think these cars are fantastic. Again, I don't have a B58. I've got a previous version of this, and it is all car to all people,
and it's still got the
everything.
iDrive rotary controller in that, hasn't it?
It does, yes.
Yeah.
And this one being a 340i means you've got CarPlay built in, which mine doesn't have. So it's a fantastic car.
Functionally very good.
I really want this. It's 89,221 miles, 17,975. I think that is the smartest option, and that's the one I'm going to go for.
It's a lot of car.
It's a lot of car.
You've definitely got more in the way of headroom and boot space than the CLS 63 I'm going to choose. But I think this car is just so awesome. I think from the engine point of view, I know it's a bit of a high risk buy in terms. Well, as I said earlier, I think this is probably so well maintained.
Do you know what? Sometimes when we do these, I try and pick ones that will always kind of get the listeners thinking and maybe make you go like, "Oh, I hadn't thought of that," which is why I sometimes lose them, because by trying to choose a left field or slightly different choice, it means that I've picked a worse choice. However, I feel like with this one, mine's not quite as interesting, but it is the better car. So if you agree that my car's the best, or you disagree and you think that for some reason Sam's CLS is better, you can actually vote on this if you're listening to this on Spotify, or if you think we both did a terrible job, go onto the PistonHeads homepage, look for the article of the gassing station, click on it, hit the topic, and go and put your own suggestions in. You can even say that Sam and I did a terrible job if you fancy it. We did have a good look through the PistonHeads auctions. There wasn't anything that was quite up to the job this time around. But yeah, check out PistonHeads auctions because we always have new stuff that's coming up. And while there wasn't anything that fit the bill right now, I can almost guarantee that next week there will be something, because that's usually how it goes. Let's cap things off with XR Mike's The One That Got Away topic. And they say, sometimes for reasons beyond our control, or just sometimes down to poor decision making, selling a loved car can happen to many of us, leading to regret later on in life. Let's see what cars you have sold on and later regretted. I'll start. A 2004 Volvo S60 D5 Sport facelift. During my ownership, I had it mapped, fitted with the T5 front brakes, EGR and decap. What's an EGR?
Blimey.
Do you know what that is?
EGR, is it a diesel? Yeah,
yes.
D5. Yeah, that's the valve, isn't it? I think that's removing some kind of valve in the exhaust system.
I see.
I think.
Yeah, and
I'll fact check that as you read the rest.
Yes, please. Okay. Upgraded the sound system and fitted various upgrades to an OEM standard. I owned this car for over 4 years. The car was a brilliant daily. The seats were like armchairs. It had plenty of power. It returned 50 mpg on a run and was utterly reliable. This car was on my must-have list ever since I was young after starting in the motor trade. I fell in love with the styling, design and build quality. My particular car pulled me through many memorable moments in my life, and it was definitely the best car I've ever owned. Sadly, I needed to free up some cash, and I was able to quickly sell it on to raise some funds. 8 years on, and I occasionally check its MOT status, wishing I held on to it. Let's see your cars you regret selling. There are some real gems. One of them actually blew my mind. I'll get onto it in a bit. So Heave Ho says, I let a 2008 Lexus ISF with 36,000 miles go for less than it was worth. Along with the 12,000 mile 2013 R8 V10 Plus, they're really the only things I've had, with hindsight, I shouldn't have sold. At least at the point at the time I did. The ISF's an interesting one because that feels like it's very much going towards modern classic status now. That is definitely on my list. I think 20 grand gets you a half decent 2008 example, pre-facelift. Post-facelift, 30 plus. They are serious. It always happens with Lexus. You get one, they tank immediately, and then they stop above where any other car would continue to fall below.
Yeah.
So that's very smart. And R8 V10 and an ISF, that's in a mega 2-car garage.
Yeah,
there.
that is. Yeah.
That's many cylinders. However, Weegus is the one that really caught my eye. So they say, when I was 21 years old, that was 40 years ago, I had this TVR. Well, they said I had this TVR, but it's a TVR Griffith. I really enjoyed driving it, and I learned a lot about cars as it could break down just looking at it. I kept it for a few years, then sold it to buy a new 2-bed house and get married. 40 years on, I still think about it now and again. Amazingly, the car is still out and about today, as I tracked it down on the TVR forum last year. Same registration, albeit it is now in green.
Oh, interesting.
I think it is the case with TVRs, though. They've got such a terrible reputation of breaking down and being woefully unreliable. But I mean, anytime I talk to an owner that's got one, they're like, "Oh yeah, I've had it since the dawn of time."
Yeah,
and it's still going. Although I have had to get a mortgage out to keep it running. But the crazy thing is that we just being 21 years old when they bought a TVR Griffith is just ridiculously cool. I had a Hyundai. Fred Smith says, my 1980 2.0 S Ford Capri in forest green with black interior, black with yellow orange tartan pattern, fishnet Recaros. Tasteful. Not the best Capri going, but the exterior colour, S branding, and the stunning interior made it look almost as good as Capris get, in my honest opinion. Sold for £200 in the early 2000s.
Yeah. Oh. I mean, there were cars, you can think now, can't you, how many cars were not worth a lot of money in the 90s and 2000s that are now worth a fortune?
Yeah. I wonder what £200 is with inflation now, though. It's probably...
Still be like $1,000 or something, wouldn't it?
It's probably sub...
I can find that out while you do that.
Yeah, go on. They sold it for £200 in the early 2000s. To be fair, even back then, it needed every panel replacing due to the insane amounts of rust. God knows what would have been left if I'd kept it. I think about my ST like that, to be honest.
£200 in 2002... Today is £377.82.
Still not.
So it's still peanuts.
Still kicking myself. Although it's
almost doubled.
It's when you kind of hear stories about, was it Clarkson sold a 3-litre CSL for like a few grand?
Yeah.
And then obviously that was a terrible.
I've got an uncle that sold a Ferrari Dino for like 30 or 40 grand back one, and obviously now they're worth many, many, many times more than that. I think it was 30 or 40 grand he sold it in the noughties.
I ran an article about it recently, and we had one on the site that was up for about $500,000.
Yeah. He's. I mean, if he doesn't listen to this pod, if he did, he'd probably pull over and cry now because he doesn't like to be reminded of it.
Trevor555, quite a few I wish I'd kept hold of, and they put some pictures up, which included a Renault RS Spider. That is so cool. Toyota AE86 Corolla, Citroen Saxo VTR.
VTR was not the quicker one, despite the name.
It was the VTS, wasn't it?
The VTS, yeah. Still cool, though, the VTR.
It really annoyed me that Citroen went like, everyone goes, the S is the mild one and the R is the hot one, and they went, no, we're going to do it the other way around. Got one now, I'll not sell until I can't drive anymore, and up GTI as my daily. Interesting. Interesting that,
that's a cool car.
It is a cool car, yeah, absolutely. I now enjoy 2 wheels more than I do 4.
Interesting, because I got the impression from that they were getting a bit older and they thought, I'll stick to something a bit, calmer. Then they were like, oh no, but I've got a motorbike.
Yeah, well, yeah, fair enough. RDMCG, there are quite a few cars I regret selling, but some were really sheds that later became valuable, like a Fulvia HF and a 911S. Both definitely shed territory many years ago. However, the more recent car I regret selling is the 997 Below, which is doing it an immense disservice because it's a 997.2 GT3 RS.
And I've just read the next bit.
I had Sabina Schmitz drive me in it at the Ring in 2010. I just had no space at the time, and I had a new car coming in. Bad decision.
Sorry, 997 GT3, already iconic, and then you had Sabine Schmidt drive you at the Ring. That is
cool as
that is like
anything.
Legendary.
But they do have a picture, I think, of Sabina in the car, and that's like a good memory. I'd have that on my wall.
Yeah.
And just to emphasize, they then put on a new paragraph by itself, just bad again. The car I most regret buying was a 1955 Gullwing, which I was offered in 1996. He wanted 220k, and the car was in very good but not concours shape. An excellent driver, though. I would have had to cash out investments, and I generally never do that for toys. Of course, hindsight is 2020.
So he didn't buy that. He got offered it and he didn't buy it. Wow, what are they worth? Bloody hell.
Considerable amounts. And finally, Andy Chef says, these two spring to mind, and they have a Dodge Viper and a Dodge Challenger. The Dodge Viper went after 9.5 years. I had tremendous fun with it. Track days, modded it, loved it, but thought it was time to experience something else. I sold it for more than I bought it for, but then regretted it. Especially now knowing that had I kept it, it's probably worth twice as much. Sad face. I moved on to Hellcat, which was just as hilarious. It then looks like he sold it to fund an apartment abroad, but it all fell through. So I went out and bought a Mustang. I think they've got a thing for American cars. So I'm still, we've got some people on the PH team who have owned north of 40 cars. We've got a few people on the PH team that have owned north of 40 cars. I am not one of those people. I tend to buy it and hold on to it until it literally can't move anymore. And in the case of my ST, it is still hold on to it after it can't move anymore. Anything you regret selling?
I'm similar to you because of this job. We drive so many cars. I haven't owned many. So I had my Punto. I'd only regretted selling that because the guy crashed it about 2 weeks after, and I loved that car, but it was my first car. I've still got my Clio 182, which was my second car. But I did buy, as a runabout, a Mini 1R50 Gen, and I loved that car because I changed the interior. I had a full leather interior from a Cooper put into it. I did it all, the door panels and the seats and everything. So it felt really nice inside, was fuel efficient, handled great. I think the R50 still looks fantastic. And it had the top of the range sound system. So I had like that quality BMW vibe in a great looking small city car that handled great. I sold it for $1,000 and, it did its job for me. But if I had like a endless driveway with loads of space, I'd have kept it just as my runabout because I really like that car. But unfortunately, I haven't owned anything much more exciting. Well, at all.
I think that kind of point of where we're fortunate to drive, me less so now, but we're driving kind of an array of cars. And so you kind of invest more of your time and effort into the cars that you do have. And so it's now the point where I'm so emotionally invested in at least one of my cars that if I did sell it, it would probably send me into a spiral I'm not sure I could come out of. So yeah, it's. I'm not at that point yet, but I think that day is going to have to come around, and I don't tend to I still see a car as an object at the end of the day. I kind of think like, it's fun to have time. It's like a house. It's fun to have time with it, but then you can move on to other things. But with my ST at least, I'm like, I would really struggle to let that go, even though it is just a pile of crud at the moment.
Sentimental value. Well, a lot of these PHs are talking about the money they lost from selling cars, whereas we're talking about sentimental stuff, aren't we?
Exactly. I'm not in the position to have investment cars.
No. I'm still in the market for my 986 Boxster S that I think I mentioned on an earlier pod.
Yeah.
The one I was looking at has failed its MOT today, so the search continues.
Well, if you have a 986 Boxster that you want to sell to Sam Sheehan, just go and find one of his posts on PistonHeads and go, I've got a Boxster, Sam, come and buy it. But until then, that is an episode of The Gassing Station complete. Thank you ever so much for listening. If you like what you heard, please leave us a 5-star review and maybe some nice words too, because not only does it make us feel all warm and fuzzy inside, but it also spreads the word of The Gassing Station to more people, which would really do us a solid. Sam, anything you'd like to add?
No, I think I've just got some... what am I driving in the next few weeks? Can I tell you about this stuff? It's under embargo. Oh, hang on, there is a Porsche coming up because, classic. Nice. Oh, and we've got Le Mans next month as well.
Le Mans is next month, which I'm extremely excited about.
We've got some really exciting stuff coming up.
I'm also going to see a Grand Prix next month as well, which I'm very excited about. And I will tell you more when I see you next Tuesday.